In the deep blue hour of the polar night, a profound silence settles over Longyearbyen. Along a sparsely lit street, houses painted in bold reds and blues stand like defiant embers against a vast, monochromatic landscape of snow and shadow. They are small, bright assertions of human presence in a world that feels ancient and indifferent. This quiet arrangement of color is more than a choice. It is a necessity of the spirit. It is a daily reminder of warmth and life, a visual anchor in the long, dreamlike twilight that blankets this place for months. Here, existence is a conversation between human resilience and the immense power of the Arctic. That conversation is written into the very structure of the town. Thick, insulated pipes snake along the sides of the roads, climbing over obstacles and connecting buildings. These are the utilidors, the town's exposed arteries, carrying the essential warmth and water that make life possible. They run above ground for a simple, unyielding reason. The earth beneath is permanently frozen. Permafrost is not just a condition here, it is the foundation of everything. It dictates that you cannot bury the lifelines of a community, for the ground will not heal around them. It will hold them in an icy grip, but it will not welcome them in. And so, this network of pipes becomes a part of the daily landscape, a constant, visible truth of living at the top of the world. It is a testament to ingenuity, a system engineered not to conquer the environment, but to coexist with its severe and beautiful logic. Inside a small cafe, the world changes. Steam fogs the windows, creating a soft, translucent barrier against the stark blue outside. It is a pocket of warmth and light, a sanctuary where the community gathers to quietly reaffirm its bonds. The murmur of conversation is calm, practical. Miners, scientists, and tour guides share tables, their faces illuminated by the low-hanging lamps. There is an unspoken understanding here, a camaraderie forged by shared isolation and a mutual dependence on both the unforgiving land and each other. In the town's small, modern hospital, an elderly resident speaks with the doctor. The exchange is warm, filled with a familiar respect, yet it carries a quiet undercurrent of finality. It is not a discussion of treatment, but of logistics. The conversation turns to making arrangements for a journey to the mainland. The words are spoken with a peaceful pragmatism, a sense of a chapter concluding as it was always meant to. There is no trace of tragedy, only the calm acceptance of a well-understood protocol. This quiet plan is connected, in a strange and direct way, to the very ground itself. We see a scientist out on the tundra, drilling into the earth. They pull up a core sample, a perfect cylinder of ancient frozen soil, layered like a secret history. This unyielding ground, which holds the town's foundations so firmly, also holds its secrets. It preserves everything with an unnerving patience, from forgotten relics of miners to the very air trapped in ancient ice. The earth here does not participate in the cycle of decay and renewal, it simply holds. And in that holding, it sets the terms for life and for death. The consequence of this eternal preservation becomes most clear as you walk toward the edge of town. There, on a small, exposed hill, sits the old cemetery. It is a quiet place, where the wind seems to speak in hushed tones, carrying the chill of the glaciers that stand like silent sentinels in the distance. You see it almost immediately. This is not a place of ongoing remembrance, but a monument to a time that has passed. The small patch of land is dotted with simple wooden crosses. Many are tilted at odd angles, pushed from their vertical dignity not by time, but by the slow, relentless heave of the frozen ground beneath them. It is a place frozen in time, quite literally. No new graves have been added for over 70 years. The miners and whalers buried here represent the last generation permitted to return to this earth. Their final rest is a silent, enduring testament to a rule born from the land itself, a rule that separates the town's present from its past. The modern reality of this rule is seen not in a graveyard, but at the small airport. A medical evacuation flight is a common sight, a costly but necessary lifeline connecting this remote outpost to the mainland. It is the town's ambulance, its hospice, its final transport. The sound of its engines is a reminder of the community's fragility and its dependence on the world beyond the ice. This system exists because the town is built for the strong, for the workers and scientists who can endure its rigors. There are no long-term care facilities, no nursing homes, no infrastructure to support the graceful decline of old age. Life here is a contract based on ability, and when that ability fades, the contract ends. The logic, as explained by town officials, is one of stark clarity. They are not equipped for the end of life, nor for what comes after. The law is not a philosophical statement, but a practical necessity, an acknowledgement of the town's unique limitations. It is a system designed to maintain a delicate balance in an unforgiving environment. And here, the profound insight begins to crystallize. The law forbidding death is not a denial of mortality. It is a deeply rooted, collective act of care. It is a profound affirmation of community life, enacted to protect the living. By sending away the terminally ill and the deceased, the community is defending itself from a tangible threat. They are preventing the reemergence of pathogens that the permafrost could preserve indefinitely, a lesson learned from the specter of the 1918 flu pandemic, whose virus was found viable in bodies exhumed from frozen ground elsewhere. This is their strange and powerful social contract. It is a shared understanding that the health of the whole depends on this final, difficult journey away from home. It is not an act of rejection, but an act of protection, binding the residents together in a shared, unspoken duty to the future. Life here is framed as a distinct chapter, not a complete story. You do not begin in Longyearbyen, and you do not end here. The town has no maternity ward, so new life arrives from elsewhere, already breathing. This deliberate design shapes the entire experience of existence. It means that every person you meet is in the middle of their journey, a temporary resident in a land that does not permit the full cycle of life to unfold within its borders. It is a community of sojourners. To live here is to accept a role as a temporary custodian. You are a steward of your small, warm space, a keeper of the light during the long darkness. But you are not rooted here in the way generations root themselves in the soil of their ancestors. And in this lies a fascinating paradox. In one of the most untamed, uncontrollable landscapes on Earth, humans have built a society defined by extreme control. It is a place where nature dictates everything, yet the human response has been to regulate even the most fundamental aspects of existence. This impulse reaches its peak in the town's most famous law. The attempt to control death itself, the one great uncontrollable force in every life, is a profound statement. It speaks to a deep human need to impose order, to draw lines and create rules, even when faced with the infinite power of the wild. But perhaps this rule is not as strange as it first appears. When we look closely, we see that all our communities are built on contracts, spoken and unspoken, that define the boundaries of belonging. The law in Svalbard is just a more visible, more explicit version of this universal truth. It prompts us to consider the invisible lines that shape our own lives. What are the conditions of our own belonging? What quiet agreements do we make to remain part of the places we call home? The questions linger, long after the initial shock of the law has faded. And then, the sky puts on a display that renders all human rules insignificant. The northern lights begin their silent, ethereal dance. Ribbons of green and violet light unfurl across the vast, dark canvas above the silent town. This is a force of cosmic beauty, utterly indifferent to the human drama below. The brightly lit windows of the houses seem so small, so fragile in comparison. They are tiny beacons of warmth and order, huddled together under an immense, timeless spectacle that reminds us of our true place in the universe. The result is a town without generations of elders, a place where wisdom is not passed down through the slow, gentle cadence of old age. Instead, it's a community of the able-bodied, a revolving door of humanity where the final chapter of life must be written elsewhere. This departure is not a failure, but a fulfillment of the contract one makes with this land. This agreement shapes the social fabric in profound ways. Friendships are formed with an unspoken awareness of their potential brevity. Neighbors rely on each other with an intensity born from shared isolation, knowing that one day a simple farewell could be the last. It fosters a culture of living in the present, of appreciating the now, because the future is so explicitly conditional. This transient nature is not a modern invention, but an echo of the town's very origins. Longyearbyen was never intended to be a cradle-to-grave community. It was a mining outpost, a place of work, built by people who came for a season, or a few years, to extract coal from the frozen earth before returning home. You can still feel that history in the air, see it in the weathered wooden structures and the skeletal remains of old cableway pylons that stand like silent sentinels on the hillsides. These are monuments to a purpose-driven existence, a reminder that this settlement was founded on the principle of temporary utility, not permanent settlement. This creates a strange and poignant paradox. People build deep, meaningful lives here, raising children, forming families, and creating a vibrant culture in one of the world's most inhospitable environments. They pour their hearts into a home they know they cannot keep forever. It forces a confrontation with a truth we all face, but often ignore. We are all temporary custodians of the places we call home. The residents of Svalbard simply live this reality more explicitly, with a clear and unavoidable deadline written into the very laws of their society. The system isn't cruel, it's a pragmatic response to an unyielding environment. Providing end-of-life care in such a remote and challenging location would be an immense logistical and medical challenge. The law is an act of collective responsibility, ensuring that those in their final days receive the care the Arctic cannot provide, and so the community has developed its own rituals of departure. The goodbyes are not funereal, but are often celebrations of a life lived in this unique place. It is a slow, managed farewell, a process of letting go that happens while a person is still very much a part of the town's daily rhythm. This changes the nature of grief itself. Loss is not a sudden tear in the fabric of the community, but a known, anticipated departure. It is a shared understanding that to love someone in Longyearbyen is to also prepare to say goodbye to them, not in death, but in life. This acceptance is perhaps the most remarkable adaptation of all. It is the human spirit finding a way to build a home, to foster love and belonging on the very edge of what is possible, acknowledging the limits not with sadness, but with a quiet, resilient grace.